Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest will be Miss Carolyn Mobley. She's an author, she's a poet, she's a motivational speaker, and she'll be talking to you about a lot of in-depth topics. So sit back and watch the show. How you doing there, Miss Mobley?
Fine. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Great. Thank you for coming on the Paul Brown Show. I know the first thing, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Just like Mr. Paul have said, I am Carolyn Mobley. I am a professional motivational speaker, a professional poet, a mentor, and the president of the Women's Professional Group. That group was established in Florida, and I've been the president of that group for about 10 years. And now that I'm here in Charlotte, I'm reaching out to all the other female groups, sisterhood, things like that, to not reestablish if the wheel is already rolling. I just want to join what's already been established here.
Okay. I know one of the topics that you want to discuss is abuse. Tell us a little bit about why you selected that topic.
Because I come from a background of abuse myself. And the ladies group in Florida allowed me a chance to talk to a lot of ladies, mentor a lot of ladies. And these ladies had some issues in day-to-day life due to the abuse they had early on. Abuse is something that's very severe, very serious, and it's an epidemic. It really and truly won't allow you to be all that you can be as a woman, a professional, a Christian, if you do not attack those issues early on.
Okay, I know you say abuse, but what type of abuse did you have to deal with?
Physical abuse from my mom, mental abuse from my mom. And whenever I had the chance to mentor some of these ladies, I noticed that they were kind of withdrawn, a little shame. And as I got in depth with these ladies and got really to the core of the problem, it was abuse. And that's what really and truly at that time caused me to go into the abuse subject more often. People don't want to talk about it. They don't want to let the world know that I, Carolyn Mobley, has been abused. But the message is in the abuse, because you can help so many people unlock the inner demon, and that's exactly what it is.
Okay, Carolyn, when did the abuse start from your mother?
Well, actually, it started when she was pregnant with me. My grandmother told me prior to her death, she's since passed on, my mom had an affair with another man, not my father, of course, at the time, and she conceived me. And she really never wanted the pregnancy, so she tried all kinds of things to execute the pregnancy, and that never worked. So whenever I was born, due to all the things she was trying to do to prevent me, Carolyn Mobley, from coming into the world, I was born 1 pound in MUSC Hospital in Charleston. And thereafter that, of course, I was a tiny thing, but I always knew that I had a purpose here in life. So become a little girl and things like that, I noticed she would treat me a tad bit different from the other siblings. It's a total of 6 of us, 3 girls and 3 boys. So right at an early age.
Okay, I'm listening, and God blocked this situation in your life because he made it happen. So that means he has a purpose for you.
Absolutely.
In this life.
Right.
What has that purpose been that you've seen through your days?
Well, just like what I'm saying right now, of course, when you're little and all these things are going on, you don't know the purpose yet. But I always knew there was something different about my life. And going through those trials and tribulations and abuse and things like that, of course, it wasn't until thereafter I really knew that I was anointed and gifted to carry a word. And that word is to be abuse advocate for women and children. Had I never, the only good thing about being abused, had I never went through those trials and tribulations and suffered what I suffered at the hands of my mom, I would not be able to be an advocate today.
Okay, out of your you said you had 6 others, or
It was
six
5
of
others,
five?
including me.
Okay.
6.
Out of all the siblings, you were the only one being abused, or you're not, you know.
I wasn't the only one being abused. She abused all of us. My mom and my dad went through a divorce at an early age. I was about 6, 7 years old, and my mom, at the time, her husband, my dad, had an affair with her biological sisters, which resulted in the divorce. My mom then became a drug addict, a crackhead, as the term used today. So we were all in a very abusive situation there with my mom, but I bear the roughest burden of all of that abuse. One, because I found out later that I was somebody else's child. I was that other man that she had an affair with child.
Well, how did your siblings, when they saw this abuse going on, how did they deal with it?
Well, whenever my mom, went into her little situation of needing drugs and couldn't get her hands on the drugs, she would just turn into a big rage. And of course, we would get beatings and whippings and things like that with whatever she can grab. Might it be a spoon, a fork, or extension cords? You know the story, things like that. But the most of it is 3 girls and 3 boys. I'm the second oldest daughter. Like she would feed those my other brothers and sisters, or feed my 2 sisters, and had me stand in the corner, or whatever they were done eating, then I would eat what they didn't want. For Easter, she would buy them all beautiful dresses, and I recall, not getting a beautiful dress. It was that kind of stuff that really, really stuck home with me. It stuck to my heart, and I developed a hate for my mom at the time.
So, with all this going on, did you ever inform, other family members of what was going on with yourself and how your mother was treating you? And I mean, because it had to have been really affecting you, not only, emotionally. It had to be really affecting you.
Oh, yes, it was, mentally, emotionally. And yes, there were other family members around, and they would address the situation. But the other family members was on drugs as well. So, they couldn't do anything about it, no more than, that's wrong, Laura, that's her name, that's wrong, you shouldn't treat her like that. But that's it. They just, stated their opinion, and that was that. I didn't stay with anybody but my mom, so the abuse would continue.
When you went to school, did your peers, did they observe? Because you had to take it to school.
Absolutely.
So how did your peers, your teacher, react, seeing you possibly going through a lot of these changes in your life?
And that's exactly why I'm an advocate today, because everybody want to turn their head to the situation. We would go to school with bruises on us, and I recall having 2 pairs of pants, one belonging to me and one belonging to my brother, and we would rotate them around, to go to school. And my teacher would notice, the same garments, day after day. My hair was never, up to par, and things like that. And I used to stutter real, real bad. So I never wanted to really talk or read out loud and things like that. So she knew something was going on, but no one wanted to get involved. No one wanted to get involved. And it was a sad time for me and my other brothers and sisters, because it was such a struggle to go to school and people are laughing and talking about you. Not on top of the abuse, they knew that my mom and my mom's sister and my dad was having an affair. So we would get teased, so to speak, on both hands. It was a horrific experience. It really was.
Do you feel like the school system let you down?
Of course. Of course. Yes, sir. I really feel that the school system let me down. And that's one of the things that, one of the places I advocate at the most. I go to schools and speak to the youth and encourage them. If there's anything that's going on, it's okay to talk to your principal or your guidance counselor or an adult for that matter. But even though I knew that as a little girl, you're so afraid that you're going to get mama in trouble. That was my mom, Sure. So that's why I go to schools and do workshops and programs and things like that, especially for the K through the 5th grade.
coming back to as you grew older, when did you decide to leave that, or were you taken away, or how did you get away from that situation?
Good question. My mom turned into such a severe crackhead, if you will. She started to steal fraud checks and things like that. So she ended up going to prison for 10 years. And my dad went to court, and the judge granted him custody of all of us. At the time, he was trying to find us, and my mom kept moving from place to place to place. At the age 8 or 9, maybe, we were all homeless, no running water, no lights, and things like that. So it was the best thing that she did went to prison, because we had a better life with my dad.
What type of relationship do you have with your father now?
Well, a very good relationship, I would say. The man raised me, and he also knew at the time that I wasn't his biological child, but we were damaged. All of us were damaged. So he could not question the fact then I was little and needed help. So he did the next best thing. He did his best to raise us.
Did that cause you to become more respectful of him, being that you weren't his biological child, but he still treated you like you were?
Yes, it gives the ultimate, it allowed me to give the ultimate respect to my father. He, too, suffered some abuse in his childhood by way of not being able to finish school. He dropped out at the grade 6 to take care of his mom and things like that. So he never had a lot of education, but he had a lot of he had a lot of common sense. And I remember him lining all of us up on a Sunday morning looking at Jimmy Swaggart. And it was just one TV show I recall looking at. Jimmy Swaggart at the time talked about forgiveness and how we had to forgive the people that really hurt us. And I wrestled with that thing because I did not want to forgive my mom. I wanted to hate this lady for all that she suffered me. But I felt better when I forgave her.
What caused you to forgive her, and at what point? Was it when she came back from prison, or while she was still in prison, or at what point did you decide you needed to forgive your mother?
Actually, believe it or not, my dad, he always taught us to love our mom and to pray for this lady. And it was remarkable to me hearing that, knowing that I wasn't his child, and for him to still, encourage us to love this lady, because I was too young at the time to realize this. I think he knew that it was something else going on with her other than, just her being her. He knew that there might have been some abuse or sickness or something going on with her. So he always led us in a prayer at night, and we would pray for my mom.
Okay, as you came along in life, where do you see yourself as far as dealing with your past in today's?
It's a lot more in depth than what I'm sharing right now. It really caused me to be a different individual, because all I wanted my mom to do was to love me. My big question was, what's wrong with me? You don't love me. Break my heart as a child, and it breaks my heart as a young lady. But like I said, I knew I was born for a purpose.
Sure.
So I never let her mistreating me stop me from getting to any destination, any goals in my life. I took the hurt and I turned it into strength. I had an older sister, but I became the older sister, by encouraging them as well, because it's a big deal when it's your own mom doing this abuse to you. And whenever she would, get high and things like that, these other crackheads would be there, and other men, and they would start to abuse my sister and I. And I remember this one particular night when she got so high and she passed out. And my little sister
came running through the living room, and I jumped up, and this man, was trying to get to her. And I remember grabbing my little sister, and we ran under the bed, and I held her real tight. One of the poems that I have, my hiding place,
Okay.
that's what we would do. We would get into this place to get away from it all. Sometimes we would even, just cringe and pass out and wake up the next morning or something like that. But I became the protector of my brothers and my sisters, and struggled hard not to let nobody get to them. You understand? So as we got older and we all went our way and got married and things like that, my biggest thing in life was, one, to finish school, which I did, to try to further my education by any community colleges, and I did that. Getting married and having my own children is what I wanted to do, because I had all this love that my mom never utilized. She didn't want from me. I had this love that I wanted to give. After suffering 6 miscarriages and burying 2 little girls of my own, I felt now angry at God. And my cry to him was, how dare you allow me to go through this as a child and not give me a chance to love my child like I wanted to be loved. I didn't understand it, but he was making and molding me into this woman that I am today. My motto in life, you can't tell no one about a Pepsi unless you drink one. So not only am I advocate for abused women and children, I visit the hospital, I volunteer when someone have lost a child or a child have passed away. There's not a topic that I can't talk about, and that's brought up that I can't talk about, because I kind of experience a little bit of everything.
How do you deal with relationships?
And that's a good question. I'm an overkill at everything I do. I love, and I love hard. I've been let down so much in my life. I don't want to let nobody down. I build this break wall up when I feel hurt is coming my way, because in my mind, as a little girl, nobody else was going to hurt me, including a man that I would allow to come into my heart. But it's such a struggle to deal with people, men, ladies, that has come from an abused past, because we're different inside. And that's why I chose to tell my spouse about my background, so he could better understand how to love me. And if these things are not shared with your spouse, it'll be just like a revolving door, because your heart will cry out loud, and these people literally can't hear you if you don't explain to them the backdrop of your life. So when I love really, really hard. I try my best to be there and not lie and not cheat. Once I'm with the man, I'm just totally dedicated, because of what had happened to me in my past. I just really want to be the best individual I possibly can, wife, sister, what have you. But yes, it's very difficult to try to love an abused woman or an abused man without letting your spouse inside of your world completely.
As your mother, was she abused when she was a child, and is it a cycle that has been going on in your family?
Absolutely. When my mom got sick, I was in Florida at the time, and she'd been sick for some time. And I recall talking to her, believe it or not, back and forth. We got a little small relationship going, a very small one. And I began to, try to love her, but not so much, because I didn't want to get disappointed. She got sick. So I had to come back to South Carolina, gave up my career at the hospital, and come back to South Carolina. I did. And she got sicker, and she got hospitalized, and I had a chance to talk to her, because I knew her time was near, and I did not want my mom to take this to her grave. I wanted to know what made me so different. You couldn't give me the undivided or unconditional love like the rest of the brothers and sisters. I discovered then
my mom's husband molested her when she was a little girl. And she hated me because of the strength that I had. She looked me in my eyes and told me, one, I hated you because you had something. You have something I always wanted, strength. I couldn't break you. Your other siblings were weak, but you were the strongest one. I wanted that inside of you so bad I began to hate you. Because every time my stepdad came into my room, I wanted that strength that you had, and I couldn't tell him no. My mom got pregnant by her stepdad and had a baby for her stepdad. So I began to really, really understand her world. She didn't have help. She cried out, so she could only give me what she knew.
Right. You say you have children of your own. Do you feel yourself fall into that pattern that your mother had for you with your children?
No, sir. I told you I had 6 miscarriages, and I told you both of my little girls died.
Oh, okay.
I have no children.
Okay, you have no children.
None.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was one of my biggest, I was aggravated with God for a little while until I lived to see exactly what his plan was for me. All of that, Mr. Paul, was in God's plan. What I went through as a young child, a young lady, and then with my babies dying, whenever God have a mission for you, you know, some people are taught what they do. I'm anointed to do what I do. You cannot tell nobody about a Pepsi in life if you never drunk one. I had to go through all of that, Mr. Paul, to be on your stage today, because there's not a topic that you or anybody has asked that I didn't have the answer to, because I've been there.
When you look in the mirror, who do you see?
When I look in the mirror, when I looked in the mirror this morning, Mr. Paul, I saw a very strong, positive, encouraging, beautiful, professional, strong young lady.
And that makes you grow even, make you a stronger individual, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes me humble, very humble.
In your opinion, why do you see so many individuals stay in relationship that's abusive?
Sometimes these people are afraid, fear. That's just like a crack addict knowing the crack is going to destroy them and they want to keep getting high. Fear.
Okay. I know you said you do a lot of poems. Do you recite one of them poems for us? I mean, we'd be delighted to hear some of that time.
One of the poems that really stick near and dear to my heart in this setting is Dreams. Whenever I was a little girl, I had big dreams for myself. And the title of this poem is Dreams. Dreams. Do you have some? Have you dreamt a dream last night? What was your dream? I dreamt that I was a millionaire. Dream, dream, dream tonight. Go to bed tight. Dream your dreams. Dream big dreams. God will treat you right. Go to bed with a peaceful mind, one that you can wake up with and nobody can find. Dream dreams. Dream big dreams. What is your dream tonight? That's one of my favorite ones.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Your mother, you said she passed.
Yes, she did.
Prior to her passing, what were you able to say to her?
I was able to be free. I was free prior to her passing because forgiveness makes you free. Holding yourself hostage because of this hurt, it's a hurt, Paul, it is. And you suffer yourself. But not forgiving trap you in a world you don't want to be in. So my greatest release was forgiving her. And magically, whenever I really forgave my mom, God gave me 15 poems on my tongue by way of forgiving. Those poetry was stuck within my heart. And had I didn't forgive this lady, I would have never known that God was creating me to be a poet. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
When my mom died, she wanted to be cremated. And I told her about the TV opportunities and things that I was involved in, and told her I was going to share my story to help others. She said to me that she would rather be dead than to be alive, to know that the truth was going to come out by way of helping people. She encouraged me to tell the story, but she saw it as such a shame on her. She didn't want to be alive having that shame on her, because it was a great shame in her eyesight. When she passed away, the child that she did the worst was there when she took her last breath. When she passed away, I did the eulogy at her funeral. I spoke at my mom's funeral. When she took her last breath, I took my first. When her life ended, mine began.
Where do you see yourself at 5 years from now?
5 years from now, happily married to the man that I'm in love with right now, running Mobley Enterprise that's been established by me. I'm the chief engineer. And that enterprise is set up for abused women, children, mentoring them if they have any talent to come in to get the legal part of it, inspiring them, to motivate them, to educate them. Because whenever you decide to go in this big realm, you need to be educated because you're about to face the world.
Ms. Mobley, we're running out of time. Really appreciate you coming on the show, talking about yourself and your poetry.
Thank you, thank you.
Now you want to come back, you just let me know.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Ms. Carolyn Mobley. You can watch the show YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google. Just want to say thank you for watching the show, and you be encouraged. Thank you. The Paul Brown Show. Chief Rodney Monroe, Darrell Williams, Mr. Patrick Cannon, Mr. Calvin Seabrook.
It said go and go for it.
There's an opportunity that's always before us.
I tell my wife I enjoy every morning when I get up putting on this uniform.
We want to help build hope and help change lives.
Paul Brown Show, every Thursday at 5:30 on Access 21. You be encouraged.